So, I know a lot of you guys watch me, and I know a lot of you guys, based on my comments, are not really big fans of guns, which is kind of where I diverge a lot from my own audience, because I myself am a very big fan of guns. In fact, here's my Glock 19 right here. Ignore that it's got some grime in the slide striations there. I haven't cleaned it in a hot minute because I haven't shot it in a hot minute, okay? Anyway, I love my guns. And I live in a very cucked, very left-leaning state where they have banned a fuckload of gun stuff. Down to the point where if I want to get, like, something that feels like a rifle that can go bang, bang, bang without having to cycle around with a bolt, I have to get, like, a conversion kit that's $350 I can slot this thing into, where, like, this grip... Here, I guess I have to hold it like this. This grip would be what you hold on to, and this trigger and trigger guard would still be what you're, like, pulling, and this barrel and everything is still what you're shooting through, and this chamber is still what you're using, but a whole thing is around it that is now, like, giving you a lot more leverage. It allows you to hold it. It basically turns it into a carbine. Into, like, a short barrel 9mm carbine. And so I might get one of those. It seems super cool, and pretty much the only option when you're in a state where they've done assault weapons bans that just are extremely overreaching. Like, they are over the top. Like, I mean, banning every rifle that can go bang, bang, bang without a bolt that you have to, like, manually cycle around through. It blows. It really fucking blows. Which is why you might be surprised that I am happy Biden is about to restrict what some gun enthusiasts may call gun rights federally. You see, you might have heard of something called the gun show loophole. I'm willing to bet that, like, 90% of you in chat or more don't even know what it means, though. So I'll explain. In America, in order to distribute firearms for profit, you need to be what is called a licensed FFL, or at least selling firearms in a large quantity for profit. I think there's a certain limit where you can just be a guy and do this, which is what we're about to get to in a moment. And a licensed FFL is basically a licensed firearms dealer, right? And when you are a licensed FFL, you are at risk of losing that license if you do not do a very particular legally required series of steps required to, like, before selling someone a gun. If you break these steps, or someone who bought a gun from you, like, going through those steps, then proceeds to commit a crime, and it's found that you did not go through those steps thoroughly enough, or did something wrong, you may be held liable, or you very well might just lose your license, best case scenario. So there's a very strong incentive from licensed FFLs to actually legitimately follow through and make sure they're not selling a gun to a criminal or someone who is going to do something bad, at least based on the evidence and reasonable, like, background checks and assumption you have there, right? And so with that known, as you can imagine, there's not a lot of cases where people legally buy a gun and then they use it for a crime. Not super common. However, there is a common scenario that does fall into that category, and that are guns that are purchased with the gun show loophole and then used in crimes. You see, the gun show loophole is not really a loophole so much as it is just the law as it is written. You've probably heard of gun shows. In America, there are basically like a comic book convention, but for guns. Gun enthusiasts go there and they bring their guns. There are kiosks with a bunch of guns like sitting out for people to buy. Obviously, they are being sold by registered FFLs, so they're like having to go through the process and everything in order to sell their guns to people. However, if you go to a gun show, everybody else at that gun show who's a visitor most likely is also bringing guns, or at the very least money. And what is not illegal and what does not currently require any form of licensing is 2 dudes in the parking lot outside, emphasis on outside of the gun show, because this is illegal already at the gun show itself. This always happens outside in the parking lot, like nearby in the premises, but not on it. They just get together and they come to terms for selling a firearm between each other, and maybe they do a trade or they do a sale, and no one's ever the wiser. There's not even a legal precedent required for them to keep like a bill of sale or a evidence or proof or like a paper trail of where this gun went, because it was a private sale and the gun was already legally owned. That is how our current... Yeah, it's like Grindr for Republicans and their guns, exactly. That is the gun show loophole. It is essentially taking advantage of the fact that individuals are allowed to trade, inherit downwards, or sell their small quantities of guns for a small profit, or no profit at all. And this exists for good reason, because let's say you die or you are terminally ill and you want to leave your guns to like your grandkids or your like nephew or something like that, you know? Like they're an adult, they own guns, and it's like, okay, well, I want my guns to go to the next oldest person in the family who's into guns. They'll take good care of them. They'll stay in the family. That shouldn't require a bunch of paperwork, presumably. I don't know. Maybe it should. I'm actually curious what people in the comments section think of that idea. But what Biden wants to do is close the gun show loophole, essentially making it so if you want to legally distribute or sell firearms for a profit, you have to be a licensed FFL. Now, if you're wondering why this is important and why I support this, I'm a legal gun owner, and I don't like when guns are used to break the law, basically. I don't like when legally acquired guns are used to break the law, and certainly not in the case of committing horrible atrocities. That doesn't make me very happy. I'd actually seen an article about this. Can I find it? Can I find it? Apparently not. Well, my bad. Basically, I'll summarize it. There was this guy who was like the manager of an airport who was caught having sold 500 or something along those lines, like hundreds of guns, legally, using the gun show loophole. Because of the fact that, like, he didn't have to become a registered FFL, he was just, like, over time selling so many small quantities of guns that he was just making tons of money and selling loads of guns over time. He took advantage of the loophole, and several of the guns he ended up selling were used in murders down the road. They were tracked back to him. One was used for a crime, like, near the Canadian border, or, like, in Canada, and another was used, like, in Mexico by the cartel to commit a murder. So it's like, whew, our guns get around. We export a lot of guns. Like, many of Mexico's guns that they have that are being used in crimes are illegal guns exported from north of the border down to Mexico from America. We're the ones giving them the guns. So, you know, it's honestly a fair trade. You know, we give them guns, we receive people. People are a resource, as Negan has taught us. I hope you all know. I hope you all know the important lessons taught by Negan. Anyway, there's a reason why I'm in favor of this. Biden closing this loophole means less ammo that hyper anti-gun people can use against gun rights existing. And me being able to own a gun for protection and, well, let's be real, not really so much for protection, because that's very much like the worst case scenario when I hope never happens, and one that's very unlikely, mostly for fun. Most people who say the words, "Why do you need a blank?" have never shot a gun before, because they would never make that argument if they've shot a gun before. They would very quickly realize it's not necessarily a matter of needing. It's a matter of, wow, marksmanship is fun. Wow, wait, what do you mean I can't shoot the ones that go bang, 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 bang? Why? They banned those guns? What? I thought they just banned the guns that go brrrr. I didn't know they banned the ones that go bang, 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 bang. I wanted to shoot one of those. Ah, fuck, that kind of sucks. Like, I guarantee you most anti-gun people, if they went to a range in America, would have that experience. They'd want to shoot, like, a certain kind of gun, realize it's illegal, and be like, wait, why is that illegal? They'd be like, oh, because this ban, it banned all this list of guns. They'd be like, oh, I didn't know that these policies went so far. I think a lot of gun people would be disappointed when shooting guns once they realized how much those bans affect the guns that you can shoot and how much fun you can have once they get hooked. Because everybody always gets hooked. Regardless, let's see Biden do some base shit in regards to gun reform. This is the kind of gun reform I like to see.
Administration is announcing a new rule aimed at closing what's known as the gun show loophole. The administration says it's cracking down on the definition of what it means to be engaged in the business of selling firearms, whether it's online, at a gun show, or at a brick and mortar store. The rule now authorizes the ATF to require anyone selling guns.
I can't get these. This is an AR-15. Can't get these in Washington. They're grandfathered in, so like the far-right militias up in the mountains, they have like dozens of these and enough ammo to fill like a tanker ship. So if they ever want to do like a day of the rope and kill all the minorities and women and gay people, they've got everything they need. But besides the guns grandfathered in, that the conservatives all have, you can't buy AR-15s or anything that this gun, for example, what this gun does is every time I pull this trigger, I'm not going to because it's loaded and one's in the chamber. Every time I pull the trigger, it goes bang. If my finger goes fast enough, I can make it go brrr if my finger goes fast enough. It can't though. As fast as my finger can press this trigger, this gun will fire until it's out of ammo. Or jams, which it doesn't really jam. It's a pretty reliable gun. And so any gun that is like a rifle that can do that, banned in Washington. When they say assault weapons ban, that's what they mean. Any gun that can go, that is not a handgun, I should say, or a shotgun, that can go bang, 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 like fire each time you pull the trigger without some sort of like bullshit you have to do with your other hand to cycle another round and then fire again. Like, that's what they mean when they say assault weapons ban. It doesn't apply to pistols usually, thankfully, but it will one day. I know it's the slippery slope argument, but I mean, they started by banning the ones that go brrr, and now it's the ones that go bang, 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 bang. What's next? You know? It's going to be the little ones that go bang, 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 bang. And then it'll be the big ones that go bang, bang, bang. Because a lot of progressives, a lot of anti-gun types want guns banned full stop. Like, most of them don't even believe in, like, hunting being a valid thing to do. Or, like, sport shooting or marksmanship being a valid thing or reason to own a gun. I mean, look at a lot of European countries and Canada. A lot of them, you got to give a reason for why you want to own a gun, and it has to be because you feel your life is in danger and you have evidence, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, yes, I want a gun because I believe I might need to use it on someone soon. That's the opposite of like the culture around guns in America. Like, they won't sell you a gun if you suggest you might use it on someone, even for self-defense soon. They sell you a gun, they're going to be asking you, like, you're going to be shooting steel targets or you're going to be shooting paper? Like, they expect you to just be taking it to the range and having fun with it. Don't even bring up the topic of shooting people in the gun store. Like, they don't want to hear about that shit. They don't want to even joke about that shit.
To commercially, that is, to register.
Frankly, our gun culture in America is just not centered around it.
And do background checks on gun sales. The White House says this will prevent people from falsely claiming that guns are a part of a personal collection and exempt from running a background check on a buyer. The director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, Steve Dettelbach, is here now with more on that. Steve, thanks for your time today. You know, the Attorney General is calling this one of the most significant gun regulations in decades. How will these keep guns out of the wrong hands?
Well, I mean, the way that the majority of legally acquired guns used in crimes were gotten was through the gun show loophole, statistically. So this is immediately going to cut down on a massive stat of legally bought guns being used in crimes. When the left can point to, here's a bunch of legally bought guns that were used in crimes, that's an argument they get to use to sway people emotionally with fear towards even harsher gun restrictions. This is a good policy. This is one that's just going to make American gun ownership safer. It's not taking anyone's guns away. It's not banning what guns you can have. Those are the restrictions I don't like. It's just making your ownership of guns and the way you get them more strict and safer. That I'm okay with. That means less legally acquired guns being used in crimes and less justification to take our guns away.
Well, thanks for having me. So fundamentally, this is about a large group of people who are just simply not complying with the law. The law says that if you're...
Well, they are complying with the law. The law is not written in such a way that includes what they are doing as a crime. What they are doing is against the spirit of the law, but not the word of it. So it can't be like that. You can't go after them unless they've been tied to another crime. What Biden is doing is including what they are doing into the wording of the law as being illegal, not just against the spirit of it. But gun enthusiasts in America are all about finding loopholes. They love their loopholes. The Glock conversion kit I was just talking about is an example of one of those loopholes. There's always something, you know? Gun enthusiasts, like, guns are such an American thing that finding ways to get around the bans will become part of American gun culture faster than you can blink your eye.
You're engaged in the business of dealing firearms, you know, your motivation is profit, that you have to have a license. Licensed firearms dealers then are required to do a whole bunch of things to protect the public. They run background checks before they sell firearms. They sell firearms with serial numbers so that cops can trace guns used in murders and shootings. They cooperate with ATF when they identify firearms trafficking. So what do you do if you can't pass a back?
They also have, like, judgment, that they have judgment calls they can make individually, like a licensed FFL. Like I said before, if you come into a gun store and you're talking about getting your first gun and you're like, yeah, I think my neighbor, like, I think there's some guy in my neighborhood. He's kind of weird. I worry he's going to break into the house in the night and try to hurt me. So I'm getting this gun. So if he comes in, I can fucking lay his ass out. 90% of gun store owners are going to ask you to leave once you say that, or anything like too close to that. Like, if you say something like, I want to feel safe, or I want to be ready for the best case scenario to protect myself, you'll probably be fine. But I would not even bring up the topic of potentially using a firearm a gun store owner is selling you, to, like, that you think it might soon be used against a person. They will not want to sell it to you. It's just not something that they're going to want to do, a licensed FFL, because there's so much liability. You've just admitted to them there. And they have the final call on whether they can say, leave my store or sell you a gun, and it's their ass, you know?
Background check. If you're a felon, if for some reason you're not allowed to have a gun under law, what do? You go to the black market. And we've seen over the last years that amount of firearms that's being funneled to killers and gang members and felons.
The problem is that the gun show loophole isn't the black market. The black market is underground illegal gun selling, correct? Like, it doesn't the black market, like, calling something a black market implies that it's illegal, right? That, like, if it was known about by authorities, it would immediately be shut down. The gun show loophole is called a loophole for a reason. It's not like all these gun people have been breaking the law and no one's done anything about it this whole time. It's that they've been breaking the spirit of the law because the law wasn't written in such a way to include what they're doing, and now that's changing, which is important. Because now what they're doing is going to become black market trading of guns, and simply doing that will be a crime that if the police find out about, they can take action. Is there a way to serialize old weapons? Yeah, the ATF, or I think it's the ATF. They're the ones who put the serial numbers on, right? I've got like 3 places where my serial number is on my gun. I've got it. Boop, 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 boop. It's under my barrel, towards the front of the gun. They put it on my chamber. And I think they put it somewhere else too, like on the grip somewhere. Oh yeah, they just put it on the slide right below the chamber. It's in 3 places on my gun. I've got 3 whole places where they put my serial number on my gun. So yeah, it's abundant. They put it on a lot of spots in this gun.
Through that black market, through people who are dealing firearms without a license, has grown and grown and grown. So what we're doing here today is we're saying in as plain terms that under Congress's law, the law that Congress passed, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, that if you need a license because you're dealing firearms for a profit, engaging in that business, if you need a license, you need a license. There never has been, and there is not some exception based on where you're sitting when you're breaking the law or what social media platform you use when you're breaking the law. The law is the law, and everybody has to comply. And by the way, it's totally unfair to the thousands and thousands of law-abiding firearms dealers out there.
True. It's unfair to us, like, law-abiding, by-the-books firearm owners and firearms dealers, the licensed FFLs. It's unfair to all the law-abiding, by-the-books gun people who have to receive the bad reputation incurred by the actions of the bad apples. It sucks. We love guns because it's a hobby that's fun, and we desperately want more people who are currently... Their gun politics are motivated by fear and lack of experience with guns to just try it and experience shooting a gun. Realize that there's more to the hobby than this fantasy about using it for killing somebody, or the fact that they're lethal. The fact that they're actually really fun to shoot, like getting good at them and like hitting bullseyes and like tightening your groupings. It's like not just the idea that, oh, I'm lethal now. That's not why it feels good or why it's fun. It's genuinely fun. Like I feel like comparing it to archery is the best thing. Like when you point to something that's not been politicized like guns and say, don't you think archery is fun? Like learning how to become an accurate archer, like isn't there fun in that to you? Like when you think about that concept, like starting out, you're shit at archery, you keep practicing, and eventually you can like nail a bullseye and you impress people with your aim and your accuracy, and you can do like tricks, and you know, like that idea, the getting better at a hand-eye coordination sport, is an appealing thing. That's part of the hobby of gun ownership, and I feel like a lot of anti-gun people don't even understand that. It's not something you can just hear and understand. It's something you have to feel, and then you'll just get it, right? Like, you can't explain why a food that's really tasty is tasty to somebody until they've tried it and know for themselves how good it is, right? It's kind of like that. It's also a tool. Guns can be used for sports. Yeah, I mean, I consider guns more of a sport thing than a, like, killing tool, in my opinion. Because most of my experience in real life with guns is a sport. They're for sports. They're for going to the range and having fun shooting paper. Sometimes onions, and sometimes steel plates.
Out there who are obeying the law, who are running background checks, that this black market aimed at arming felons that are hurting people is out there competing with them and not playing by the same rules as Congress set.
Now, Steve, the NRA says background checks don't stop criminals from getting guns. So what's your response to that and to critics who claim that federal...
Bullshit. Background checks stop criminals from getting guns through legal means. If it is illegal to provide a criminal who is already offended with a firearm, then there is liability on the person who sells the gun. There is a massive wall and barrier for legal acquirement of firearms for criminals and bad actors or people who have a criminal past, and thus there is less ammo. Like, the NRA should not be against policies like this. I think the only reason they're against it is, like, that's their brand. I'm with you, Xander. I'm also a lefty gun owner, and common sense gun safety doesn't scare me either. Yeah, like, I think, like, gun safety reform is really good. Like, we should have safe storage laws, for example. Like, it should just be an instant felony to have, like, a non-secured gun in your house when you've got children. I think it might be already. If not, it should be. Just an instant felony. Like, instant 20-year minimum.
Regulations like this violate the Second Amendment.
This doesn't violate the Second Amendment. It specifically says in black and white in the provision that this doesn't implicate anybody's Second Amendment rights. And it also is true that the many licensed dealers who are currently obeying the law, right, they're out there in tens of thousands of numbers available for people to make lawful purchases. The notion that background checks doesn't stop anybody from getting firearms is totally contrary to the data. Since the background check has been implemented in the 90s.
Dude, watching these videos of guys just like eagerly trying out their new AR-15s, just seeing how they like sit in their hands, like just aiming down the sights and stuff, just getting to know their new gun makes me fucking seethe so much. I'm seething. I'm literally coping and seething right now. Just like one of these days I'll be able to afford that $350 Glock conversion kit, and I'll be able to feel kind of like I have a rifle.
Millions and millions of firearm sales have been stopped by the running of background checks. And let me say one other thing. Every time somebody proposes a way, every time Congress passes a law or considers a law that's going to save lives, I hear people say, well, this won't solve the whole problem. Well, that's not the right test to be using. There are only two tests we should be using. One, is it
no, it's all about harm reduction. Like, you don't just say, no, I'm not going to clean my house right now, even though you only have like 5 minutes before you leave the house. Like, you should spend the last 5 minutes before you leave the house cleaning some stuff so you come home to a slightly cleaner house and you can finish the rest of it later. Like, don't put it off because you don't have time to do all of it now. Like, the idea is that you slowly chip away at a problem, and if you can make a problem be less bad right now, or in the short term, so that it can be made even less bad in the long term, then you should do that. It's not like there's not some magical single gun policy or policy across the board that just magically fixes gun crime. For one, as long as guns are going to be widely available in America, which is a given due to the fact that even if we cut off Thanos snapped all gun manufacturers right now, we wouldn't have the gun problem solved in this century. The guns outnumber people by like nearly 12 to 1. So it's quite substantial how many guns there are in this country. In fact, we're like leaking guns into Mexico and Canada, and it's not even making a dent. You know, it's not even a drop in the ocean of guns we have in this country. So the illegal guns are out there. The legal guns are out there. The idea of trying to just ban gun ownership and Gestapo, like, knocks on everyone's doors and flips their houses over looking for guns, I just don't think is a good idea. I think that enforcing the safest possible gun culture in America possible is a good thing. For example, Switzerland, I think it is. Is it Switzerland? I'm pretty sure it's Switzerland. Has like a really strong pro-gun culture. They've got like famous shooting ranges in the mountains that are like scientifically developed in such a way where you shoot over a busy highway, but the way they built the mounds is such that you could never arc a round into the cars on the highway. It's impossible because like the trajectory you would have to shoot at to do it, like you can't do it from the shooting positions. So like you'll literally be driving down that highway and you don't know it, but there are like anything ranging from 7.62 and 5.56 to 50 BMG rounds flying 20 feet above your car and then like soaring into the cliffside another 100 feet away. And there are multiple ranges like that in Switzerland. Their gun culture is so strong that they have made it so safe that it's dangerous, you know? Like that level of so safe that it can look dangerous, but it's totally safe. That is what their gun culture is like there, and I love that for them. I want that for America. I really do. I'm really curious what you guys think about this. I think this is a pretty colossal Biden W, obviously. I think even, the lefties that typically disagree with me all the time will agree with that because they typically don't like guns because they disagree with me all the time. And, this is a gun reform policy. So, I think this is a colossal universal W. I think many people will agree on this one. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are down below in the comments. Not only do I love reading your comments, but it also boosts my videos and my channel whenever you guys do comment. So I really appreciate it. Also, if you want to help me out, you consider dropping a like. Every single thumbs up does the same, so commenting and liking obviously doubles that shit up. It really helps. And of course, if you haven't already, consider subscribing or the bell icon so you get more notifications from my videos and you find out when I go live or upload. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, donate, or gift a sub if you haven't already and you've got the money for it. It really helps a lot in terms of keeping a roof over my head and my lights on and my internet bill paid. And if you, of course, want to support me elsewhere, you can do so through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, and Patreon. You can also buy merch, and don't forget, it's totally free. Consider joining my fan Discord, where we do pretty consistent watch parties, call-in streams, and all sorts of cool fan events. So consider joining my Discord. It's super fun, and I hope you enjoyed.